Hi, everyone. I'm Karen MacNeil, author of The Wine Bible, and this is People to Know, insider interviews with the most important and fascinating people in the wine business. And today we are so pleased to have Raj Parr joining us. Raj is a James Beard award-winning sommelier, author, and winemaker. He was born in Calcutta and earned a degree from the Wellcome Group Graduate School of Hotel Administration in India. Later, he attended the Culinary Institute of America in New York. After graduation, Raj moved to San Francisco to apprentice with Master Sommelier Extraordinaire Larry Stone at Rubicon restaurant in San Francisco. In 1999, he was hired as the opening wine director at the fifth floor, also in San Francisco, which received rave reviews and constituted the first of his 4 grand awards from the Wine Spectator for the extraordinary wine list there. Then in 2003, Raj was named wine director for the Mina Group with over 25 restaurants around the world. And in that capacity, he opened RN 74, San Francisco's award-winning bar and restaurant. In 2010, Raj founded Sandhi Wines in partnership with winemaker Sashi Moorman in the Rita Hills of California. And since that time, he has co-founded Domaine de la Côte, also in the famous Rita Hills, and Evening Land Vineyards in Oregon's Willamette Valley. Raj, you got to get going here, guy. You're just not doing enough. I don't know, man. That's a lot of work, and all in the last 3 years. It's just astounding. No, just teasing here. But you know, I wanted to start out because I know about you that you have a great love of food, and in fact that you wanted to be a chef at an early age. How did the food culture in which you were raised influence your ambitions and your palate?
Very important. I think, growing up in India, growing up with my grandmother, who was an amazing cook, and then my mother learned from her. So just in the whole environment, since I was like 10 years old, I was always hanging out in the kitchen more than anything else. I didn't like going to school, so I liked just, playing outside and then spending time in the kitchen. So, and then that kind of also helped me develop my palate, though at that time you don't know, and just all the smells and all the herbs and all the spices in India. So it's a cornerstone of my life. Even today, I love cooking and cooking for friends, of course.
Yeah. And it's such, I know that India is not one cuisine. It probably horrifies you when people say Indian cuisine because it's a huge country, a huge continent, in fact, and with lots of different culinary traditions. But I think the one thing is that it's all very complex food. So as a child, that must have been really a great trainer for your palate.
Yeah, for sure. Because also, because I was living on the East Coast, and then my grandparents and parents are from the North, and I went to school in the South. So I really experienced all the different flavors, and the cuisine in the North and South is completely opposite. There's not even the same ingredients used. So it was really interesting to kind of, see all sides of the cuisine of India.
Yeah. Now, do you remember how old you were when you had your first glass of wine, and who gave it to you?
Yeah, no. I mean, my first glass of wine was maybe in 91, maybe 91, 92, when I went to Goa. Goa is a Portuguese colony, and they made port style wine, and so that was the first time I had wine, which was probably terrible because it was sweet and nothing like the port, probably like just cooking port. But then the first glass of fine wine was in 93 with my uncle in the UK, when I spent a few months with him, and that was the first time I had it. Was some sort of Bordeaux, I don't remember what it was, and I had Bordeaux and champagne the same day, and I was like, wow, I can't believe it's made from grapes.
Now, why, speaking of your uncle, because you did have a relative or relatives in England, how did it come to pass that you decided to go to the Culinary Institute of America in in New York? Why not stay in England?
Because cooking in England wasn't what it is today. In the early '90s, there wasn't much happening there, and I didn't want. I could have gone to Switzerland also because there's schools there, but I really wanted to come to the States and learn. And my plan was to go right back and work with my family, and my cousins had restaurants. That was the plan. And then I met wine, and then I said, okay, I don't want to go back. I want to learn more wine. So that's how it happened. But the goal was definitely to head back home after the 2 years.
Yeah. Now, you've been a mentor to so many sommeliers who have gone on to become important and very renowned sommeliers. What do you think what are the essential qualities of a great sommelier?
I think the first is humility, to listen to people, because that's a challenge for many people, not even for young people, but for young people even more. And to listen and to kind of really follow someone's lead. I think that mentorship is very important. I had an amazing mentor. I had many important mentors. Larry Stone one, and I think that what that taught me was that my job is to teach people if they want to learn, and to be patient, to be humble, and to really listen. And after that, you can learn skills about service. And I would rather train someone who's 21 than someone who's already worked for 20 years, because I can mold them in the way where, and also different people, different young sommeliers have different learning curves. So you have to kind of adapt. Not everyone is built the same way. If they're curious and passionate, I'm sure they can pick up wine very easily.
Yeah. Currently, of course, speaking of sommeliers, there's a bit of an uproar in the Court of Master Sommeliers over discriminatory practices and in some cases just being tone deaf to sensitivities, racial sensitivities, I guess I'd say. Do you think you're an Indian man, do you think you have experienced racism over the decades in your career?
Yeah, a little bit, in early days, especially when you're young and you're Indian, and you don't think about it because it was never brought to your notice. It was just like, yeah, you say, oh yeah, it happened, and yeah, it's something you just live with. You didn't really think about it too much. Even not long ago, you go to some places and they don't expect you to be you make wine, and it's just, it's everywhere, unfortunately, and it's in every place. And but I think we all have to make an effort to kind of be inclusive, and that's very important.
Yeah. Well, speaking of wine, I'm thinking, I remember the first time I heard about you actually through Larry Stone, also a friend of mine. You were then, as you are now, considered a Pinot Noir expert, not only on Pinot Noir in California, but originally Burgundies, and also Pinots from the Willamette Valley of Oregon, where they are so extraordinary. What is it about Pinot Noir that draws you in? What draws you in about it?
As a sommelier, I loved it because of just the character, the how perfumed they were, how complex they were. The evolution of Pinot Noir is it's unlike anything else because it changes so quickly. So that was as a sommelier. Now as a winemaker, it's even more complicated because you have to, you vinify it, and then when you start growing it, to grow it is a pain in the ass because it doesn't like any extremities, and you realize, you give it a little extra yield and the wine is too light, and you cut down yield and the wine is too concentrated. So it really does not listen to anybody. It just has its own path, and Mother Nature has a big role in it. I think as a whole, Pinot Noir is the only grape that takes the personality of the person who's growing it and making it. there's not many other grapes that kind of, the personality of the person is very much in the wine. And I think that is something which I understood early on, tasting in Burgundy and hanging out with my friends there. But then once you start growing it and making it, and you see that your imprint is so strong on the wine, and it takes over your personality.
Yeah. So you must include in the concept of terroir the person who made the wine.
100%. No, 100%. Because, I mean, even if you look at our wine, if you look at Domaine de la Côte, it has a huge imprint of Sashi in it, and then it has an imprint of me in it. And they're different, because here we are two people trying to make the same wine. And if you look how we make it, grow it, how we age it, it's both of us together. And if you take one of us out of the equation, the wine might be different. And it will be different for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
One day I walk away and say, hey, Sashi, you take care of the vintage. I'll come back in next year. No, but it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a joke about you that I've heard saying, if you say to Raj Parr, how was the 89? He'll say 1889 or 1989. Is that fair? Have you tasted your wine?
Yeah. Well, I was lucky to have known. I know a good friend of mine, Wolf Shager, who we opened our 74 with, and I was also lucky to taste a lot of old wines with him and Michael Broadbent. When Michael Broadbent was finishing his last book, and so I have tasted a lot of pre-phylloxera wines from Bordeaux, Burgundy, and I've tasted a lot. So I don't taste that many now, of course, but it is definitely, I've been lucky to have a lot of wines from the early 1800s all the way down to the legendary bottles of 1870 and yeah.
That is lucky. I've tasted a few myself, but not nearly as many as you. So lastly, Raj, tell us something about yourself that would surprise most people to learn.
Okay, so here's something. People think I love to travel and go everywhere, and I actually love being home. And this difficult time we've had, and it's, for me, I won't say it's a blessing, but it's been an amazing chance to rediscover things I love, things about myself, things, time to read, time to stay home. And it's pretty much everyone calls me and tells me, oh, Raj, aren't you tired of being at home? Don't you get on the plane? I'm like, no, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay home. So it's really that's been the most positive thing. Crazy world we are in right now with all these changes. And so, yeah, there you go.
Well, our complete interview with Raj Parr appears in winespeed.com's People to Know section. Check it out. You will really want to read the entire interview. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks a lot.